Okay, core activation. The very first exercise that we're going to do is one that specifically pertains to how we release and open the IT band. As I said in the first video, there are certain exercises that don't work as well if you don't prepare the muscle tissue for them. So this first one, it's a single leg RDL hold. RDL stands for Romanian deadlift. What it means basically is that you're balancing on one foot and you're in a hinge position, so you're going to drop your chest. Now, an active RDL looks like this, and we've done these before. It's where you're hinging over the leg, back leg goes back, and then you squeeze the glutes come up. Now that we did that in a dynamic movement tier, right? So today you're just going to hold the bent over position, and that's going to help activate the glute and hamstring, and along with a little bit of low back and core at the same time. So now we can use something to help us with stability, because balance is tough, right? So if you're in a bent over position and we get there and you're holding, right, the ankle's wiggling, the knee's wiggling, and you've not done this before, you may not look as good as I do when I do it, right? I practice this a lot. So if you want to use something, now you can use a bench, a chair, a wall, whatever you want. I'm going to use a ball here because it's a little bit less stable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the device that's going to help me out here. When I get to the other side, I'll show you how you could use a wall or a bench or anything like that. But you're going to start nice and tall. This is very important. How you start the exercise is definitely going to add to how stable you'll be in the exercise. So I'm going to pull my shoulder blades back, my chest open. I'm bending my knee just slightly. My right leg, you can see that I just dropped a little bit. Now from here, I don't bend it anymore, and I push my hips back behind me, driving my back leg back. As I do so, my chest has to go down, right? Then I'll place my hands on the device. Okay, now what you should see in my back here is that it's super flat. Watch this. Ooh, not that, but watch this. That is my spine rounding and flexing. In this type of exercise, that's not what we want. And you can see how my leg almost immediately lost stability as I did that. It's because if your back isn't set, then your leg and hip are not going to be as well activated. So now I'm going to adjust, pull my chest up, flatten my back. Now I will hold here. Easier said than done, of course. Okay, so I'm going to do so for up to a minute. And if you haven't begun yet, go ahead. Obviously, if you use a chair or a wall, it's going to be more stable than a ball. If I didn't want to use the ball, I'll place my hands on my hips here, maybe on my thigh. This will help you too much if you push down here. This will add to a little bit of ease. So if you take your hands off in some way. Okay. Now, when I'm here, that was definitely at least a minute, my ass is burning. You're focusing on a couple different things. I've already talked about the back, but you also really want to focus on how the foot is gripping the ground. So my toes are really engaged. I have a strong arch, okay? And then my knee, and we talked about this in the step down on Tuesday, you don't want the knee to be falling inward. So I'll just show you really quickly in the position. You don't want the knee to collapse in like this. So you can see that my foot, my ankle, my knee are collapsing inward. Okay, as I talked about before, this is dangerous for a lot of different things, especially the knee. So we're trying to keep the knee over the foot and ankle, maybe even a little bit outside, as we're holding the bent over position. Per usual, easier said than done. Just be mindful of what the knee, the foot, and the ankle are doing. Don't let them drop in too much. Now I'm going to show you, and if you haven't already stopped or you haven't begun that exercise, as I said before, up to 1 minute, but 30 seconds at least, 45 seconds is great as well. No longer than a minute. That's your window there. So if I wanted to use a wall, I could get close-ish to the wall. You have to judge and see how far you need to be away. Now I'm going to do it on my left foot. I'm going to set my arch, toes are gripping, pull my chest upright, bend my knee just slightly, push my hips back, dropping my chest as I do so. Now I got fingertips on the wall for a little bit of stability. my foot, my toes are gripping, my knee is over my ankle or even just a slightly abducted position. My back leg is back behind me and my back stays flat. Now I'm going to hold here for up to a minute. I'm going to breathe. And the desired effect here, you guys, is we're creating stability in the system of the leg. The main stabilizer being the glute, okay? All of the glutes are working to keep us here in this hinge position, so you'll get a nice burn there. If your knee is too far forward like this, your thigh will burn first, or your calf, or your foot. So don't let your knee drop too far forward, only slightly bent, and right over my foot. I'll do 10 or more seconds. Oh, all right. Glutes burning. Next one is going to be a DNS position, and we've talked about DNS positions before. So when we get into any sort of DNS exercise, as we've done before, we always talk about this intra-abdominal pressure, which means you're basically tightening your abs, and when you're on your back, you're keeping your back flush to the ground. We haven't talked about it so much in a prone position, which means face down. So in previous exercises, as I said, I'm tightening my abs here to push into the ground here. When you're in a prone DNS position, and the one that we're going to be working on today is going to be on our hands and knees, is your hands are going to be under your shoulders, your knees are going to be back, and then you're going to shift your hips forward. So basically what this is a plank, but on your knees, right? Nothing too obscure or wild that you haven't seen before. We're just going to play with it a little bit differently. So now, what's really important to focus on here is that your legs and glutes are actually not working at all. I don't want you to think about those at all. But what you are going to focus on is your scaps and arms driving through the floor to protract and push away from one another. So watch, my shoulder blades are retracted here, not good, don't want that. Push down and away to protract. Now you can see there's a lot of space in between my shoulder blades now. And you can also see that my back is a little bit rounded now. Now in this exercise, that's great. In the previous, it wasn't. So now we are in a flexed spine. My back is rounding a little bit because my shoulder blades are protracted. Now, okay, I'm going to tighten my abs consciously and squeeze as hard as I can as I continue pushing through the floor. And then I'm going to breathe. I'm inflating, deflating. My chin is tucked to align my neck. So I'm long through the cervical spine. Try not to squeeze the glutes as you're holding this. Now I'm going to pause for a second there. Now you can start or not start or pause or whatever you want. It's just important that you know that the spine, as I said, is in a semi-flex position. And try not to use the legs. And from here, once we feel stable, we can play with it, right? So you can just hold that and really work on the engagement. Work on your inhale, right? So as I inhale, belly expands, exhale, belly button comes in. Now, if we want to play with more than just that, then we can play with a little bit of reaching, right? So in the development of a child, which is where DNS comes from, the whole idea of how humans develop, is as a child, you eventually gain the strength to be able to reach and grab a toy or a bottle or your mom or whatever. So in this position, what that would look like, and it's really not easy, it's definitely hard. If you're here, leg legs are disengaged, as I already said. Protracting scaps, bracing abs, not letting glutes fire. If I want to take a hand off and reach for something, or maybe touch my opposite shoulder, watch how my hips will want to turn. Now I did a pretty good job there of not letting my hips turn, but there is some shifting happening. The end goal of doing something like that is to not let any shifting happen. So I got my hands set. Let's see what the other side looks like. Glutes disengaged, core engaged. And the key is the tempo here. If you go fast, look at my shoulders. Anybody can do this shit forever, okay? Instagram's doing great with all this stuff, okay? But if I stay stable and don't move, brace the way I want to, I guarantee you will get way better abs, way nicer core for both spine health and aesthetic health, meaning how good do they look. So there, you're either going to hold that position, because I've already held quite a long time there, pretty warmed up and activated. You're either going to hold that that first pose where you're not moving for 30 seconds at least, 45 maybe, or up to a minute. Okay, so that's your window again. If you want to do the arm touching or reaching an arm out, play with that. And if you have a mirror to look beside you in that one, that can be helpful. Okay, because when you can see where your back is, either rounded or if your scaps are retracted, then you can see, look beside you in the mirror and notice how your spine is looking. Really important. I'm just going to show you one more thing about it. Don't let this happen. Back arching. This is up dog. Okay, this is yoga. Nice relaxing position. Not good for core engagement and also not great for the spine. So do not allow your hips to drop too far forward where your back is arching. And if you do feel your back as you do this one, then you know you have something to adjust, because what you should mostly be feeling is abdominals. So a quick adjustment here. Pull the belly button up, round the spine, right? And now I'm in a good position. Okay? Now the last exercise we're going to do is much more simple. It's called a prone reverse hyper. So you're going to lay on your stomach and rest your forehead on the back of your hands. So you're in a neutral neck position by doing that. And then you're going to bend your knees to 90 degrees with your feet together. So the goal with this exercise is to kick your heels up towards the ceiling, keeping your feet together. Now it's not going to look like much because there's not much range of motion to be had here, but that doesn't mean that things aren't working quite well or quite hard. So my goal is to activate my glutes and hamstrings as I kick my heels up towards the sky. So I'm going to relax my head. I'm going to kick my heels up and I'm going to hold that for about a minute. So what I'm doing here is using my glutes, hamstrings, and low back to keep driving up towards the sky. Now, as I said, doesn't look like very much, but it's quite hard. So my glutes are quivering, my hamstrings are quivering. I feel my low back quite a bit, which is good. I want that. It's a part of the system, it has to work too. Trying to breathe. Now, for many of us, you might cramp in your hamstring as you do this. And if you do, just stop, okay? And I'll show you what to do if you cramp. So I'm going to do about 15 more seconds. So I'm burning out. Oh, okay. So if you feel like you're going to cramp in the hamstring, just quickly roll over on your back, pull your leg up towards your chest like this. Very similar to the IT band stretch that we did but your intention is to stretch the hamstring by pulling. Your knee can be slightly bent for this one, and you can play with bending, straightening, different positions. Work out the cramp if that happens. All right, so that's core. Per usual, 2 sets at least, 3 if you're going for it today, and I will see you in Tier 3, dynamic movement.